Welcome to a new series called Addressing Misconceptions About Native Americans, where we address some of the many misconceptions about the indigenous people of the Americas, which was usually born out of colonial constructs. I hope you understand this. This video is not made to disrespect any human populations with dark skin tones. We are just discussing how the diverse skin tones of Native Americans appear on different camera films. Unfortunately, there are misconceptions out there about the oldest pictures of Native Americans, because some people see these old pictures that depict natives with dark skin, sometimes with black skin tones. So they may assume that natives once had dark skin, but were bred out of existence or watered down by Europeans. Some ethnocentric groups might even use these old pictures of dark-skinned natives as evidence of ancient Black Americans. Some people point out that today's Native Americans look lighter than Native Americans depicted in those old pictures. So we are just here to set the record straight. What they don't realize is that those old pictures were shot by old orthochromatic cameras that date back to the 1860s to 1890s, which made the color red appear darker than it is, and the color blue appear lighter than it is. These old orthochromatic cameras also made the colors of brown, reddish-brown, maroon, tan, and copper appear to be darker. Now, if we consider the fact that the skin tones of most Native Americans are diverse in skin color, which ranges anywhere from light brown, reddish-brown, copper to tan, these orthochromatic cameras will also make the skin tones of Native Americans look darker. These orthochromatic cameras were red light sensitive, which is why it made the color red and other similar shades appear to be darker. This is most noticeable with the pictures from the first-generation cameras that came out before the 1890s. In photography, orthochromatic film is sensitive to blue and green light, rendering reds as very dark, while panchromatic film is sensitive to the full visible spectrum, offering a more natural black and white reproduction. Panchromatic cameras were the next generation of cameras that came out around the year 1900. Panchromatic film became the standard for all films from the early 1900s to present day. Although colored panchromatic film didn't become the standard until the early 1960s. However, orthochromatic film didn't become obsolete, as it still has some use for applications such as aerial photography, portrait work, and landscapes. Now here are two pictures of a native Mexican woman and a Black American man, who are both shown in modern film that depicts the normal skin tones of these two individuals. These pictures were shot by a modern colored panchromatic camera that makes the two people look very natural. Now here is the same picture of the two individuals shown in a black and white panchromatic film, which does show normal skin tones, but in black and white film. Again, this film dates back to the early 1900s. Now we'll show the same two people in the old orthochromatic film that dates back to the 1860s. As you can clearly see, orthochromatic film darkens the native lady, who has a natural copper skin tone. But the skin tone of the Black American male isn't affected by the change from panchromatic film to orthochromatic film, because dark skin tones isn't affected by orthochromatic or panchromatic film. Here is a better example using actual pictures that date back to the late 1880s to early 1900s. The picture on the left shows a Native American man whose picture was shot by an old orthochromatic camera from the late 1880s, while the picture on the right shows the same man whose picture was shot by a panchromatic camera from the early 1900s. The orthochromatic picture on the left makes the native man appear to have a dark skin tone, while the picture on the right of the same man was shot by a panchromatic camera that depicts the native man with a natural skin tone of most Native Americans. However, there are some cases where an old orthochromatic camera did produce pictures of the natives with more of a natural skin tone. Some of the orthochromatic cameras that came out during the late 1880s to late 1890s did have some improvements about depicting more of a natural skin tone. Moreover, photographers during the late 1880s did make adjustments to capture better pictures of the natives. They often placed them in better lighting and better backgrounds, which did help somewhat with showing more of a natural skin tone. Here is another fact to consider. Most Native Americans who live in moderate climates have a natural light brown skin color. However, during the summer months, many natives do get a dark summer tan with a copper or reddish-brown hue, which means that Native Americans with a summer tan will look darker in orthochromatic film because of their copper-colored suntan. Moreover, Native Americans during the winter months will lose their summer tan, which means that a Native American person may look more natural in an old black and white orthochromatic film. This is not to say that dark-skinned natives do not exist, as many native populations who live in warm and sunny climates will have a natural dark skin color, with either a reddish-brown, copper, or dark brown hue. Let the truth be known. This video obviously applies to today's full-blood Native American population in relation to those old pictures of the 1800s. Of course, we haven't forgotten the obvious fact that there are full-blood and mixed-blood indigenous populations across the Americas. And we know that these mixed indigenous populations do have lighter or darker skin color when compared to their native ancestors. The mixing is obviously due to mingling with Old World populations. Rather, the mingling took place during or after European colonialism. This is so obvious now. So all these silly misconceptions about the old pictures of indigenous Americans that is based on people's lookership can now be dismissed as rumors, misunderstandings, or malicious erasure agendas. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Check out other related content in the links provided. Thanks for watching.